Red 2 standing by, all 4 lit and in the green. Welcome back to Bomberman 64, everyone. We've cleared the game with 120 gold cards in under 3 hours. Today's episode is going to be focusing on collecting the custom parts I didn't get as part of the main run. I still went and got some even though I said I was going to focus on the gold cards, so this is going to cover what we've missed and how to grab them, just like everything else. There'll also be a few observations along the way in keeping with these post-commented sections, because it would have been a bit of a nightmare trying to do commentary otherwise. Anyway, sit back and enjoy as we begin our adventure back in Green Garden, to have or have not. Now, Green Garden is kind of interesting because while it is the most basic level, it actually has some of the more complex custom parts and gold cards. To proceed to get this custom part, first kick a bomb under this platform. You must not destroy the pillar that leads to the third area, because you need that bridge. You will then have to set 2 bombs as close as you can to the edge without falling off, because you'll have to bounce your way over to that little alcove. I stress again, don't fall off. Because of course I managed to. I was recording this when I was fairly tired, admittedly. It had been kind of a busy day. But once you actually set everything very carefully and don't manage to drown yourself, you will pretty much have to take a drop of faith. Don't run off too much. Basically, just goes to show how fiddly some of the things in this level can be. I mean, you compare it to Blue Resort, and Blue Resort is actually incredibly easy. Even the boss in this is relatively complicated, because you have to wait for it to do very specific moves in order to try and damage it and get all the gold cards. I suppose Leviathan is like that as well, but he's a little bit easier to work around. Anyway, once we do grab our custom part, head out and you'll be warped to safety. You don't get stuck over there and have to drown. Now the next one is going to teach us that sometimes there are hidden rooms in walls. Of course, some of them can be a bit hard to see if the camera doesn't change, so I spent a few moments just shuffling it around trying to work out what on earth was going on and where everything is. Just head in there. Basically, we will have to rotate the camera, so we've got beautiful shots of those 1997 graphics. Magnificent looking wall textures and that very cheap grass texture that probably looks like it comes out of the Pokemon games in all fairness. Anyway, there are our blocks. Detonate our bomb and it's the one on the left as we're facing towards the exit. So we effortlessly cleared out absolutely everything in Blue Resort. So we're going back, after I managed to get myself incinerated by being caught in 2 mines, to that custom part. It's a bit of a pain in the backside to get, and you will want fairly weak bombs. The best trick is to actually land on top of that, which I completely forgot about, and then detonate your bomb. And then you can just drop down there to complete the level. Simple enough. And now we're on to shiny, slippy, icy floor. There's a very long and narrow pathway which we have to traverse in order to get this particular custom part. So basically I'm just sort of shuffling along. As I've mentioned, I really don't like ice physics. I kind of tried to explain that, but I suppose it's not exactly the worst game mechanic you can come up with. There's probably some realism in it. Sometimes game mechanics can make or break everything. It's kind of interesting to see how those really old and poorly set up game mechanics actually wind up contributing to people's perceptions of a series being really difficult. I mean, yes, they can be difficult, but are they difficult for fair reasons, or is it just because the game is fairly poorly organised? Back in Black Fortress, meanwhile, and we've got a complete doozy. Also, watch out for traffic, because I got run over several times. Camera was facing the wrong way. We have to get up there. I got stuck again, but we have to do some very careful bomb jumping. Head up here and set up some bridges with bombs. Now, note that I'm using, for the first time, the full power option, which gives us 8 bombs all at full power with the power... That's a stupid way to put it. What's the best term for it? I've always called it the power pickup. Either way, it's the one that makes your bombs more powerful. Now, we have to blow up a block at the end of this once we have reached our objective. Now, as you're watching this, you can see where this is going, can't you? You can assume at some point there's going to be a simply hideous accident like I did. It was about here that I realised I'd completely stuffed up. I didn't have a heart item. And there was nothing for it. So I just decided to cheese it. If you have smaller bombs, sometimes they do recommend not having any fire pickups. Full power isn't actually always helpful. Now we're back in Trap Tower, searching out a few more. As always, I will be showing how to get to the areas with a sort of central area we can work from, because Trap Tower can be a bit fiddly to navigate. Anyway, back to what I was trying to say on some of those game mechanics. Sometimes I do wonder if the difficulty people enjoy do just come from fairly poorly programmed game mechanics, because sometimes there are some complete shockers. And they do contribute to the senses of games being particularly tough at times. But problem is, you've got to balance whether a game is actually being tough for the right reasons or because it's really, really janky. Like, take Mario Kart. I mean, I know I rag on Mario Kart a lot, but it's a really, really good example because Super Mario Kart is a perfect example of things being difficult due to rather poor game mechanics. The handling's a bit sloppy, but that was the same case with F-Zero as well, so I can't really criticise that. The biggest problems were that dodgy handling tended to send you into obstacles. Now, these obstacles could only hurt you. The AI drove right through them. This was especially infuriating when you got to those electrified thwomps on Rainbow Road, or just about anywhere really. That was one big problem, and of course, the coin system only affected you, and there were special items that only the AI could use, and they had unlimited supplies of them. Of course, this went the other way because you were the only one who could actually use the item panels. The AI couldn't pick up regular items, which is why they actually had that supply of infinite items. Interestingly enough, balancing the game actually made it a bit more awkward, because they could now use blue shells and lightning bolts and all the other things we're used to them spamming as a substitute. But as things have gone on, while the item spam is incredibly problematic overall, the Mario Kart series does actually test your driving skills a bit more. Everybody is vulnerable to all the hazards, and things do overall seem a bit more fairly balanced. Earlier, as I said, it was entirely down to the really crappy mechanics. Now, I'll interrupt myself to point out that if you step on one of the red tiles when you get to those sections where the tiles are flashing green and you have to stand on the right one to proceed, the alarm will be set off. You can warp back with the tile in the top right corner, which was just under the gem logo, but you can also wind up bouncing your way out with bombs, as I've done. You need to hit the number 4 switch, then you need to keep the number 3 switch pressed. You will need to pull off some maneuvers to get up here. This is the fastest way. Took me a little while, but I got there. Anyway, once you head over here, there is a fiendishly well-hidden secret path that is only active when that number 3 path is active. Of course, the cannon mech getting in my way didn't help because you can't actually paralyze them. The instruction manual will actually make this clear. So with that little bit of trivia aside, we can blow it up and proceed. If you head up here and navigate this little maze all the way towards the end, you will find a custom part, the sunglasses. Talking of completely unintuitive mechanics hindering the player, there's really no indication, unless you really, really rotate the camera a lot, that you have to do some of these things in Bomberman 64. Like, you might see those if you're looking around, but that's about it. Anyway, it's just over there, and the alarm will stop going off once we actually leave that floor. And with that acquired, we can go to the Rainbow Palace. Now, you're probably seeing the major issue here. We have to divert over to the right as we face the castle itself. So yeah, this wasn't going to work because you have to blow up the box at the end of it. So I'm just sort of thinking here. I did wind up preparing a restore point, but I'm having everything go through my head. It's like, I have incredibly powerful bombs. I've died a couple of times. I don't have a heart. Now this is normally the point where what could possibly go wrong winds up being said. But after sitting there and contemplating for a little while, trying to work out exactly how I could do it, I realized it wasn't a good idea. Now, full power will help you get the time gold card very easily, but you will not be able to pull this off if you screw up. I've looked at it, I've tried, I thought it wasn't a very good idea. As I said before, you will often need bombs with no fire pickups. So I've screwed up here, and then I look around, and it's time to finish the level because I'm going to obliterate myself. At least I did a little bit better than Wile E. Coyote. Give me credit for that. But in all fairness, Duck Float, the custom part which is over there, is incredibly frustrating to try and get. Now, I do recommend actually throwing a smaller bomb over there and putting it in position next to the block. Basically, you should be throwing a small bomb over there now, because otherwise you'll wind up getting stuck and having no way back, like I did. It's best to detonate that small bomb, then bounce your way back really easily. But that is how you bounce your way over to the Duck Float, and if you have no fire pickups, absolutely none, I'm trying to work out if I will get incinerated, you can survive. And I'm still mulling it over. Sorry about this taking so long. And there we are, we just avoid death, but then I don't actually have any way to get back. So I pondered it over and just decided I'd have to take a death, because actually getting back is a little problematic from this. You can't actually land the bomb on that very last piece of geometry, I'm not sure what to call them, panels, let's say. You can't land it on that last panel closest to the exit. I tried several times and it just wound up bouncing over. So that's pretty much it on the tutorials, because if I'm going to be honest, getting Doom Castle's cards are incredibly easy to do. You'll see those. You will need to do some clever bomb jumping, but that's alright. Anyway, I've kind of summed up a little bit on how game mechanics can affect the difficulty for better or worse. You've got to make sure you get them just right, and often the refinement of game mechanics to make them more accessible for people is what winds up getting called a reduction in difficulty, or dumbing down for the casuals or something like that. What it does, at least in my eyes anyway, is actually make sure the difficulty is from genuine sources, or as many genuine sources as is reasonably possible. You've got to have a good challenge, but you want it to be a challenge for all the right reasons. Now, admittedly, some of the stuff in this is completely mind-bending, and there's no real way to work out what on earth you have to do unless you try absolutely everything. So it's kind of frustrating, but once you do work it out, you do feel pretty good for it. But at the same time, there's also a sense of, we've finally got this done, and sort of aggravation more than anything else. You do want to minimize the aggravation, at least in my eyes anyway, and just have fun with things. Like, make it a challenge, but make that challenge rewarding to overcome. Just don't make things so bothersome. Anyway, that is literally where our two custom parts are. I don't know why I'm using literally in such a sense. That wraps things up for our custom part collection. Thankfully, this way is very easy to get back through. Next time, we will be looking at all the changes hard mode makes, and having a little bit of commentary along the way. Thank you very much for joining me, and until next time, as always, this is Red 2 returning to base. Wait, this is still on? What do you mean we're still recording?